Well, hello and welcome to Arts and Wellness Cafe. I'm Amanda. Thank you for joining me. If this is your first time, as I said, I'm Amanda. I'm a mixed media artist and I'm very pleased to have you here on my channel. So, the word that the week has been outpouring, well, the word for the week is heartfelt. And on my podcast, I speak about that, and I'll leave a link in the description below, so that you can listen to that. And as I've been thinking about the word and how it applies to me and my creativity, and essentially how I would love you to maybe think about it as well, is to really just kind of sit with the word, ponder on it, look at, if you have to look at a definition, or if there are certain things that come to mind when you think of that word. And essentially, in all of that, you have to think about who you are and what is it about the things that you do, your journey, your experiences, that will impact on the world. Now, for a lot of us, speak for yourself. For a lot of people don't necessarily think that they can make an impact on the world, but they can. And you never know what something that you say, something that you do, something that you share, you never know when that is going to arrive at somebody's inbox, phone, or they'll see it or they'll read it. You never know the impact that it's going to make on their lives. And I don't know, think about your own journey and think about those times where you said, oh my gosh, this came just at the right time. This quote came just at the right time, or this encouraging video came just at the right time. Or you hear people say, I was at my wit's end and then I heard, or I saw this image that just sparked something. So as creatives, and I say this a lot, whether you think of yourself as an artist or not, we're all creative. So we all have a responsibility to give back, as it were. We all have a responsibility to share what we do, to share our knowledge, to share our truths. And I do think about this a lot, and I'm always thinking about how the things that I am sharing, how they meet people. And when I say meet people, when it arrives, how it touches them, how it inspires them, how it motivates them, because that's essentially what I want you to feel. I want you to feel encouraged, I want you to feel inspired, I want you to feel that you are clearer in your purpose. And I think that all wraps up with the word heartfelt, because I have been, again, thinking this week how the things that I'm doing are impacting, or whether I'm actually doing the thing that I need to the fullest. So, for instance, the vision that I have for Arts and Wellness Cafe is that you go away feeling inspired and you go away with some handy tools, and I hope that is the case. And I know that there's some tweaking that I want to do. So you are going to experience some of that tweaking today. So the overall, again, if you're new here, I have a word for the week that starts on my podcast and then runs here to the Arts and Wellness Cafe, but there's a couple of monthly words as well that go hand in hand with these weekly words. And the words for February are insight and reflections. So that then, coupled with heartfelt and coupled with the previous words, because this is the last for this month. Next month, on the 1st of March, sees a set of 5 new words. But the previous words were blissful, ambition, and comfortable. And again, you can listen to those recordings at your leisure. But as I say, I want to pack in as many little nuggets that you think, do you know what, that was a full meal, I feel really well fed. And then when you break it down, you can say, oh yeah, you know, there was these little nuggets in this section and that section. And yeah, that's really, you know, what is, I'm hoping, will unfold. And as I just get into my groove, because again, being, you know, the start of something, you are going to have a little bit of teething things to sort out. And as I say, I want to, again, just see how it goes, be flexible and provide you with insights and encouragement. So one of the things that we are going to do, let me just give you a brief overview of some of the things that we're going to look at today. We're going to look at a weekly book, so I'm going to show you a book that I'm looking at the moment, and I will be doing reviews. I've got an Amazon store, so I do reviews over there. We're going to be looking at a work that's been finished, an art journal, and we're going to look at a question. So I want you to come away pondering about that question. I'm going to answer the question for myself. I've got a series of questions that I'll be asking over the weeks, and it is for you to think about how that sits with you. What is it you're drinking? I don't know. I'm drinking water today. I started my day off actually with a smoothie. Over the last 2 weeks, I kind of changed. I ate more of the things that I enjoy and that I find nourishes my body. So it's a lot of green stuff, fruit, mainly, I mean, I do eat fish, but more vegetables, more pulses. And what made it easier is because I didn't have my son around saying, oh, where's the meat, kind of thing. So I could just, you know, and I normally cook, you know, a vegetarian bit and then add the meat. So you could just eat that, and you know, if you're a vegetarian, if you came out of my house and you were a vegetarian, you'd be sorted. Anyway, so yeah, just been eating more like that, because I've been finding that, again, the more you think about your body, your health, your mental health, your state of mind, mental health, the more I realised that I wasn't taking as better care. I could look after myself a lot better. I mean, on the surface, it's just like, yeah, you know, you're doing what you need to do. But I was feeling kind of like little aches and pains, and you know, just because you're getting older doesn't necessarily mean that things should stop working. So it's just like, oh, okay. And then the COVID weight. I've spoken about this COVID weight that, you know, that for a year, all of last year, I think I comfort ate. And whilst I was comfort eating, I didn't find comfort, because obviously we're all in this global situation. So I'm now dealing with the aftermath of this COVID weight. So it's just like, physically, my body's saying, you need to do something about this, because we don't feel comfortable. Your joints are like saying, oh gosh, really? You're gonna what is it you think you're doing? So that's where the self-nurturing comes in. And so yes, that's one of the things that I'm kind of getting on board with. And yeah, so getting my health sorted out, getting my studio, I'm tidying up, I'm going through each area, giving it a good dust, because it's very dusty. In this house, it can get very dusty, and you're kind of sweeping every couple of days. Well, yeah, we got a dog, but it's just like, what is in the, you imagine, you wonder how much you're actually breathing in before it lands on the floor or anything else. Anyway, so I thought I would give it a good, spring clean, and what that would mean, therefore, is to take every single area, like even behind me, and you can see these containers. So taking them all down, dusting down where they are, dusting each of them off, and looking in the container to see, well, what is in there that I really want to take forward, make some notes. If it's just like, well, I go in there and I think, oh, what do I feel like doing? But if I know specifically and I haven't put a note to say, well, okay, well, this needs this being done to it, then do that. So just have a bit more order and organisation, and focus on some of the other things that I want to do, which you have to make room for. And that was one of my, that's been a continuous word that I've taken from year to year: make room, limitness, and letting go. Yeah? Okay, so we're going to do the word first, yeah, and then we'll go into the art journal, the book for the week. Now, I'm not saying that I read a book a week. I would love to get to that point. But I will share with you a book, whether I've been reading it halfway through, have read it, or yet to read it. It's in those categories. Okay, so for one of the courses that I created, I did an exercise called Tricking the Critic. And Tricking the Critic is about answering questions about that is at the back of your mind. The answers are at the back of your mind, but you don't really kind of deal with them. We're also going to look at a piece of art which also kind of incorporates the theme. So I'll find the question first. I'll get one of these questions. So I purposefully did them on cardboard, because often the critic will come and say, what do you think you're doing? So there's no kind of pressure, or, the critic doesn't feel, because we have to work with our critic. It's always going to be there. You're always going to hear, as I said, I've only met one person who said they don't deal with an inner critic. But whether you have a voice in your head, whether it's somebody actually physically that, says is very insensitive, we'll do this one. So I looked at the question before I said it. Anyway, so so the cards were a way of answering some questions about yourself, putting them on cardboard so there wasn't any resistance. So it was about getting rid of the resistance and then actually getting down to the work. So that was what this was about. But I was just thinking as I took this down, so it's in a little printmaking box, that I wanted to kind of cover it. It's an Inktense box, Inktense blocks. Oh my gosh, these are so nice. But it came with brayer, some what are they called, sheets of printing foam, embossing tool, and the Inktense box. Anyway, let's get on. The question, well, it's it's kind of like a question. It says, don't hide your treasures. Identify one now and use it. So the thing that comes to mind that was what I'm going to show you anyway was the journals. And creating journals, I think, is one of my treasures, in the sense that looking at the approach and the way that I make them. So I can take anything and make a journal, and it is about, for me, it is about, again, getting rid of all the kind of noise that says you can't make it out of this, it has to be, you have to have perfect paper, you have to have perfect card. Now, I did a book binding course, and let me show you actually. I don't know why it went like, but my voice went like that. Anyway, so let me show you. Okay, yeah, so I did a book binding course. What are they called? I can't remember, but they were in Victoria in London. Anyway, so here are a couple of books that I made. So this particular one was made with the bookmark thing. It looks like one you would buy at the store, doesn't it? It's fantastic. And then inside, this is a handmade paper. They had some beautiful handmade paper, and we got to use, we had access to different papers, and this is like a semi-fabric coating. But yeah, we got, and this is just, I just did it on plain paper. So I haven't used it, so I made this, so this would have been 10 years, 11 years ago. It had a little bit of a stain there, must have dropped something on it. But yeah, I was really proud of myself. But we made, over a series of 4 weeks, we made 6 books, and this is another one. This is more like a photo one. Photo one? It's not photo one. Well, you can put photographs in. It's done in that way, but it was just like, when we were told we were going to make it, I was thinking, but I have got photo albums, but it's like, do people use photo albums anymore? I mean, I haven't taken the photos out. But the paper, it's not that kind of paper that would, this is just copier paper. Yeah, so, but look at the finish. See, it's got a double, cover sheet there like that, and then you've got the pages there like that. Yeah, and again, the cover it was just like a plasticky type of fabric. And I've made loads of them. And so if you're, when you think about, and the end pieces, I don't know whether you can see that there, look at this one. This one's got coloured end pieces. So we learned the techniques, and that's something I'll never forget. And I do always, from time to time, I'll make the signatures, and I'll stitch the books. This one was that stitched? It was stitched, yeah. I really did enjoy it, and as I say, it's something that I'll always carry with me. But yeah, so the love of making journals, and okay, this segues into showing you a journal, and I opened it up on this page. It's not finished. It says self-nurture, and I've started to journal on it, and the printed piece there says, of course it's possible, wonderful girl, especially for you. I did a course called Soul Restoration, and the words were words that Melody Ross did a whole load of stuff that you could use, questions you could ask, and I think that's probably why I've kind of kept on with the questions, because it's very useful to every now and again, like I'll answer this now. I mean, next year that question about identifying your treasure might be different, you know, I might feel differently about other things, but making journals that I can express myself in, and if you were here now you would see, yeah, you would see my I'm just looking, my studio's not tidy enough to have a look at it. I need to tidy it up a lot more. My patrons will probably get, if you were one of my patrons, you'll get to see the behind the scenes in its raw as it is stage. But yeah, so this page, I did this page because I wanted to remind myself about self-nurture. I talk about it a lot. I talk about, you know, being able to express yourself and all of this, but expressing yourself through your creativity and using it as a tool, as a reminder for yourself, a visual reminder that, you know, whether you want to do it on paper with it embellished, using embellishments, and that's one of the things that I'd also been doing this week. I've been playing about with Fimo clay because I've got about 20 little blocks of clay that I haven't used for a long time, and when I went to just see what it, you know, whether it was usable, it's all crumbly and hard. But there's a way I found, good old YouTube, I've found a way of reconditioning it, softening it out. So I'm going to be making some, I just want to make some little, they're like called tiles, just embellished. So anyway, telling you about that was because I'm now using, this is far from what it was going to be. I've got a couple of containers of stamps, and I've got some wooden stamps, and yeah, I started to, I dug them out and I was looking at some of them, excuse me, and here's some in here, and the wooden ones are in another container. But yeah, creating patterns on the Fimo clay and then baking it. It'd be nice if I had a separate little oven. I might see if I can get a second-hand one, because it really did smell quite strongly in the kitchen. So I don't want that. So I've answered that question, I've shared it. So what is your treasure? What is the thing that, you know, it's the exact question, but what is it? And share it. So whether it is that you just comment below, you know, that's fine, or whether it is that you then, oh, here it is, don't hide your treasures, identify one now and use it. So yeah, if you want to share it, that'd be great. I love hearing what other people are doing or thinking or feeling, you know, especially in terms of creativity, and use it. So that's an encouragement for you to think about how you can use it and you know, be a blessing. And as you use it, you'll be a blessing to yourself. So let's get on and see some art. We'll see the art before we go. I'll show you the book that I'm looking at the moment. It's this one called Art Journals and Creative Healing. So yeah, I make lots of art journals, and this one says, I'll read you the back. It says, in Art Journals and Creative Healing, Restoring the Spirit Through Self-Expression, artist and author Sharon Sonneff demonstrates with raw, real excerpts from beautiful and unusual artistic journals how the process of journaling can be a tool in navigating through some of life's more difficult or challenging seasons. Through real-life journals, personal stories, creative exercises, and journaling worksheets, the book explores how the combination of written and artistic expression can help to unlock the subconscious and result in a safe space to explore and push beyond difficult or challenging human experiences to places of newfound wisdom, peace, comfort, joy, health, and healing. Now, doesn't that sound great? So it isn't a really nice book. It has she collaborates with loads of artists. So there's a list of all the artists that she collaborates with, and they all write their own kind of little piece, whether it's an experience that or something they've been going through, or an experience, something that's happened to them, and they all create different varieties of journals. Yeah, so I'll be doing a review of this in the coming weeks, so I will link it as well below, so if you want to have a look, but I will be, as I say, reviewing that. And it is by Quarry Books. Now, I got this it's dated, I don't know the date, but I was looking where it says copyright 2008. Just like, but it doesn't look like it, does it? I love my books, and I keep them in really good condition. And there are some of the things that, some of the art journals that they make, that it is about, again, just thinking outside of the box, and what is it that you're feeling, and in what ways can you express that? It doesn't have to be in your typical shaped, writing book. Again, an art journal can be whatever you choose it to be. That was last week's one, yeah. And again, if you look at my restoration journal, that is a like a university prospectus, and I've repurposed it, and I haven't done much embellishment in it. I probably have to do a flip through of this, but there are some pages that I have done. I love the texture, and it's all about expressing yourself. Yeah? Okay, so let us now look at the art piece that I'm going to show you now. Some of you may have seen this before, but a lot of you may not have. It's a glass piece on here. So let me share this with you against the backdrop of stuff. Anyway, this piece is called Me, Myself, and I. And if any of you, if you're familiar with transactional, is it transactional analysis, where it looks at the looks at you as a person, as the, you've got the adult, you've got the child, and you've got the parent, and we, depend on what our situations that we go into, we manifest those personas. Maybe that's not the right word. I mean, if psychologist, you'll be able to explain this really clearly. But so within us, we have the child, the adult, and the parent. And the adult is how we respond to things on a day to day, in the sense of, responsibilities and all of that. The parent can be a bit judgmental, and the child, well, we know that inner child may feel insecure, and sometimes we can respond to things from the standpoint of the child within us, as opposed to allowing that adult to come forward, or the nurturing parent. And I can see I can see in myself those different personas. We'll call it that. It might not be the right word, but so I can see when I'm feeling a bit insecure and when I'm feeling a bit childlike, and that I usually find around my art and creativity. So I love to experiment, and I allow that to often take over, because it's just like, well, you can't sell experiments, you have to produce your work and all of this. So the parent or the adult kind of has to really take over in some of those things. But I think that you have to be able to stay in touch with that child like part of yourself, and look at the world in awe and wonder. And again, you've got the critic, or the say the parent, that can sometimes be critical. We can, without necessarily thinking. You could be thinking one thing and you respond by saying something that's not necessarily what the person needs at that time. So the critic, it was like a reminder that whilst the critic is there, I don't necessarily always have to listen to the critic. The critic doesn't always see things as clearly as it needs to, from my point of view, but it's always there as a quite a large presence. But sometimes I have to, in this particular piece, it's more the critic as opposed to the parent. But sometimes I have to keep the critic in check. I have to, when I say to myself in the mornings, right, what do you want to do? It's, okay, you got permission to do anything you want in your studio. You can play with supplies, you can play with tools, you can experiment with different things. What would you want to do? So the critic feels as if it's coming from a place of love, but it doesn't necessarily always do that. And that could be because, like if we think about ourselves, we can be critical about ourselves, and maybe it's that we're not showing our inner child the love that it needs to have in order to then see things from a different perspective. Sometimes that's all that's needed. And then the I, me, myself, and I, or is that me, with the heart on her chest. And she is, this particular, her face, she's looking downwards, but it doesn't necessarily mean she's not coming from a place of strength. It's like, having to hold your own and, stand your ground. So we often have to do that. So if you imagine the turmoil that can sometimes go on within your mind, and how you feel about yourself, how you talk about yourself, the self-care, like I spoke about earlier, I recognized that I hadn't been showing myself enough self-care. I talk about self-care, and I've been doing some things, but I still allowed a situation, although it's a global one, to impact on me so much that I sought comfort in food. So you go back to when we were kids, Mum would once a week go shopping with the trolley to the. I remember her going. It's Queen's Crescent. It's called Queen's Crescent in London, and there were market stalls and things like that. And I just remember going there when we was younger and pulling. Whether I pulled the trolley, I think my brother was there, but we had a trolley that, and as part of that shop, we would each get a chocolate bar, and then we'd come back, and it was just like a really nice treat. We were not rewarded, but you saw chocolates as a treat. The neighbours brought a big tin of Quality Streets at Christmas, and it was just like everybody had their favourites. But yeah, so the self-care and thinking about exactly what it is you need to be doing. So that's this piece of art. It's made from paper clay. It's got a solid base, armature, and fabric. And yeah, this was one of the first pieces in terms of sculpture that I made. And yes, it's kind of quite dear to me because, again, in terms of the meaning, and when I look at this, I have to think about, well, okay, what standpoint are you coming from now? Are you feeling insecure? If you're feeling insecure, are you doing the things that you need to do? If not, why not? Again, what are the things that you treasure? Looking at the question, and so it all kind of ties in when you think about it. So I hope coming to the Arts and Wellness Cafe has given you some insights and a way of looking at your own journey. And do come back next week where we will be starting a whole new series of words for March, and I look forward to sharing it all. Take care. See you soon.